Okay, cameras on.
Down
Who they
Snyder
are,
Road,
but
there was a Spring Township.
you know someone.
Fire department across
There.
What, just today? Yeah, they were probably out doing the one call. That's the department that handles one calls with PA American had a water main break.
Yeah, when the guy was here, he made it sound like.
Yeah,
very
I'm thinking
impressive
actually might have been
getting this
Susan.
fiber optic.
Yeah, they were, there was
He didn't
a
mind.
meeting because they
6
wanted
hours
to do,
Saturday
they had
night,
multiple
and then-
contractors.
I would guess
but they
somebody
couldn't
had a
do
bad
PA
day.
one call.
6 hours.
My biggest,
They couldn't
I would
keep
guess
up
somebody had a bad day.
because they had like
My,
5 or 6
best
different
contacts
contractors
over
that
there.
wanted to do
Yeah, I
something
know. I
else a day or
could've just
something
reached
like
out to
that. It
Leon
just
too,
wasn't-
but-
Well, they'll probably get incentivized
It's
by
just, it
the
was
number of miles they put in per day. Maybe
now nobody's been there.
Yeah,
since
that could be
Saturday.
how
I think
they're-
it was just, there were 2 cell phones. Yeah, I guess they were cell phones. In an undercover apartment. And I was like, and then I
I would
turned on
think
the
it's probably
that.
this is state
Ah,
park,
Aaron.
as opposed to
show what's
state.
the address. Where do you live
It would have been on Lincoln and Roxbury. I don't know the exact house number.
When was it?
Saturday morning,
Oh, yeah, they probably would have been there.
the cops were there like around 9:30 until,
Public information.
I checked the birth certificate from, first I was like, but there's nothing on that fire alerts birth certificate.
Global one.
Okay.
Call the meeting of the Fire and Police Committee to order, and roll call, please.
Bill James,
Here.
Fred Mogul,
Here.
Ron Stanko will be absent, Fred Levering,
Here.
Keith Jar.
Here. Okay. Move on to reorganizing the committee and entertain nominations for chairperson.
Second.
Motion second, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, thank you. Okay, now we need to entertain nominations for vice chair. Actually, you are. Yes.
I'll nominate Fred Moak.
Second.
Motion second for Fred Mogul, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's just keep moving right on. Alrighty,
Road is coming
we have any public comments today? No? Okay. Alrighty, move on to fire department, Kyle.
Hey, good afternoon. I have a lot of information today. I'll try and go quick. January to date, 2023, there have been 115 responses consisting of 10 fires, 18 motor vehicle accidents, 46 QRS medical calls, 12 hazardous conditions, 26 alarm activations, 2 smoke detector installations, and 1 fire police call. Total responses in the borough 82, outside of the borough 16, and in Spring Township 17. 72 overlapping calls to date, split between 40 between Spring and Wyomissing, 13 between Wyomissing, and 19 between Spring. Fortunately, no fire damage or fire loss for the month so far. Average turnout per incident was 4.2. We had volunteer response on 19 incidents and 115 calls to date. For the December 2022 expanded report, system-wide, there was 323 responses. Out of those, Wyomissing responded to 175, Spring 252. Total QRS responses in Wyomissing 43, with 21 patient contacts. Zero Narcan administration, our busiest day of the week was Friday with 61 incidents, and our busiest hour of the day was 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. with 31 incidents. Let's see. Let's just go on to who we gave aid to. We gave aid in the month of December to Laureldale 2 times, Western Berks Fire Department 29, Greenfields 4, West Reading Borough 4, Muhlenberg Township 4, Shillington 1, Cumberland Township 6, the City of Reading 2, and at Denver, Lancaster County, that was a spring response. That's all I have for that. If there's no questions.
Why the huge number with Western Berks, 4 in West Reading, they're the other side neighbor?
Probably majority of those are spring. They run spring with an engine, and I can't break that down as easily in our actual reporting system as to which company actually ran the call or whatever. As of last week, the end of last week, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, ladder 18's out of service, so that's out for maintenance. So ladder 79 is the next new aerial for most of 18's area, at least going up towards Wilmsdorf. But any motor vehicle accident or hazmat pretty far up or fire, springs on, at least with an engine or a rescue. If it's a structure fire, ladder 79 is also on the response, even if ladder 18 is in service. I'll go on to, if anybody has any questions, I will answer them now, and then I want to go on to the actual year-end report. Some pretty good statistics, if I can get my turn report. I'll just kind of go over the bullet points for you. 2022, system-wide, there was total responses of 3,257 incidents. That was 219 higher than 2001. Total responses in the borough were 1,125, Spring Township 1,477, and mutual aid areas 655. Out of those 3,257 incidents, YMSing responded to 1,819 of them, which was 55 higher than 2020. Our yearly average turnout time from dispatch to an out was 1 minute 57 seconds. Dispatch to arrival 6 minutes 58 seconds, and our average time on scene was 20 minutes and 36 seconds. Average turnout for the year was 4.7 personnel. Our fire loss, system-wide total fire loss was $3,611,650. Specifically to the borough, property loss for the borough was $97,650, and Sage property for the borough was $823,800. Out of all those incidents, we had 62 working fires, building fires. YMSing was on 45 of those. Obviously, they were not all in YMSing borough. And vehicle rescues were 25. YMSing handled 10 out of the 25. Total QRS responses system-wide was 1,216. The borough YMSing responded to 510 of those. Now, the 510, there was 318 patient contacts. I have broken down what our total personnel hours were for incidents. 5,136 hours and 2 minutes of incidents. Training hours were 1,538 hours and 55 minutes. And then I have it broken down between the volunteer and the career RSUs on that. Total fire safety inspection system-wide was 1,174. In the borough was 623. We processed $41,250 in inspection and permits. Total fires investigated 58. Out of those, 33 were in YMSing. And then we had fire prevention events since COVID kind of eased up. We're starting to ramp back into that. We had 41 events. Out of those 41 events, we had contact with 3,623 residents. And then it's broken down for the hours, smoke detector installations, the number of those. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
On the building inspection, a lot of office buildings and all that stuff, are you finding them to be in reasonably good order, given that we're coming out of the pandemic?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Not home and all that stuff.
For the most part, yes. We have our problem offenders in both municipalities that we kind of keep up on. But for the most part, everything's pretty much up to par and stuff like that. And we're capturing stuff not only on the fire inspection aspect of things, but when we go out for a call, if we see something as well too, we're writing it up then and giving them notice, and then we're following up as well, to make sure that the issues are corrected, that we physically see, or if the alarm was caused by an issue, or if we saw something while we were there that was an issue, we'll address it.
And given the lack of maintenance overall, are you finding any particular situations with the wall?
Yeah, we just gave them notice. We pretty much told them we're gonna be out here, and we gave them like a 2-week period, and we're gonna start with the common areas, because that definitely seems to be falling apart over there, more so since they changed management. So we're kind of monitoring that. We're giving them a 2-week head start, and then we're gonna start with the common areas. So that would be all the sprinkler risers and stuff like that, fire alarm systems, just in general, the whole actual complex before we actually go individually to store to store. Usually the store to store isn't as big of an issue at the mall as the actual general common areas and stuff like that. So hopefully the heat are warming, because we're not gonna play nice this year with them. That's why we gave them a little bit of a notice to make sure they have their things in order. So when we go out there, we don't get the, oh, we didn't know, or we didn't, so they were warned.
Didn't Michelle, you also say you have problems over at the sheriff?
So, ironically, an hour after economic development Thursday morning, Troy Happ, the fire marshal, responded to myself and Craft Codes that Craft had gotten a building permit application for fit out of one of the wings and to reinstate the kitchen. So, yes, there are issues there, but it sounds like we're somewhat on track to getting them fixed. Yeah,
Is this from veterans or?
the property manager on behalf of veterans. But it sounds like the intent is to bring it back 100% as a hotel.
That'd be wonderful.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just to make a comment, well, let's keep following here. Okay, we have an ordinance, I forgot to bring that
Yes.
along with me.
I have it here, I don't know if
You just wanna read the highlighted version that we can,
you highlight version, or?
yeah, write it.
So, all right, the top part, so we're looking to adopt the 2018 International Fire Code for the Borough of Wyomissing. We're following suit with Pennsylvania, adopted that already. Every couple of years, the code changes or whatever, so, it's an ordinance of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, is that what you want me to read?
Yep.
That part? An ordinance of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, Pennsylvania, repealing, readopting, restating, and amending the code of the Borough of Wyomissing, Chapter 7 entitled Fire Prevention and Fire Protection, Part 2, entitled Fire Prevention Code, and renumbering the sections of Part 4 entitled Fire Department Services Fees by adoption of the that's a typo, 2018 International Fire Code and the Fire Prevention Code for the Borough of Wyomissing. So we were currently working on the 2015 International Fire Code, and we're looking to, the 2018 code has been out now for some time. There's some additional changes in there that have provided more teeth and stuff like that for different things in us. And then we captured everything to make sure that it's adopted appropriately as we did in the section in the fee schedule, which is in the borough's fee schedule for permits. Okay.
And this primarily applies to new construction, but it has limited application to existing structures.
Actually, it would have more to existing structures because it's kind of a maintenance code, so basically, Michelle would know better, but I believe like the ICC code, this kind of falls under the ICC codes and stuff like that. So this is a code that we kind of go by, obviously, but it's after a building is up and permitted and occupied. When we go out to do the yearly inspections, this is what we're inspecting it based off of for the annual fire. It's basically fire and life safety code.
Okay, so it is actually primarily for existing structures.
Correct,
Okay.
right. There's stuff in there for, new buildings and stuff like that with access with fire department lanes with, the fire department connections and line of standpipes required, which we have a separate ordinance in place here that requires all automatically, wet standpipes, and then we build and have to require standpipes in the borough.
I'll entertain a motion, for this ordinance to be, passed on to, council for final approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, we'll move it along to council.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. The only other thing we had talked a while back, Zone 4 had given each fire department 500 brochures that we could put our rubber stamp on the back of them and so forth. We have them, I guess they're here, some are out here. But I'm thinking, why don't we're never gonna get rid of 500 of them,
Well, we're gonna hand some out too, obviously.
At the
We go out
career
to do
day.
fire, if
Yeah.
we do any kind of career day, or we go out to do fire prevention events or something like that, which somebody just recently asked about one. There's one potentially coming up here in the borough someplace. I don't know the details on that, I don't think we finalized it yet, but we do like Home Depot, Old Navy and stuff like that, usually as a safety aid. When we go to those events, we'll do that, you know, the library, when we have events at DP, we'll be doing that as well too.
It'd be great if we could get some to the library.
I think
They
we
throw
talked
it
about
in.
that, yeah. I think we split what, us two, what we got.
But also, maybe we've already done it. Have we photocopied that to put in the welcome packets for people coming in the borough?
I would think we'd actually just want copies instead of, because to print color,
It would be.
yeah.
Why don't we just photocopy that, stick it in the welcome packets, and people know that, hey, we're a combination department.
Then if we need more, just let me know, I can bring.
Can you get us?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be, you know, good way to be. Any way we can get it out there that, you know, we're looking for people. Okay, anybody else have anything for Colin? Thank you, Colin. And we move on to Western Desserts.
They're so violated. So you have our monthly report, the year-end report's in process right now, but we do have the year-end numbers on this report. 256 incidents for the month of December. Of those, 186 were transported for 25 refused. We had 4 standbys, 33 cancellations and 8 assists, for a total response time of, the total responses of 3,117 to 2,352 transported. Of the calls for the month, 98 were ALS, 107 BLS, and there were 38 downgrades. And again, as you can see, 24, 28 calls were for the Highlands and the Country Meadows. So still the bulk of the calls are coming from the residents, not from the nursing homes. Most of the patients do go to St. Joe's. We're taking about 17% of our patients most of our patients go to Reading, about 17% go about St. Joe's. In regards to COVID, it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. We're noticing an uptick, which is in the pediatrics in this new variant. The new variant is the X, it's got a couple numbers and digits in it, but we're gonna get a new variant now for forever until we get it. The pediatric numbers are steady right now, they're not climbing anymore, so that's a good news. But we still tend to go in. And we will be putting on we are creating a committee, and we would ask for one member from here to be on to look at the opportunity to maybe create an EMS authority instead of an individual type association anymore. We run as a municipal entity
When are you looking to get that stuff?
as soon as reasonably possible.
Explain what you had in mind.
So it would operate similar to a municipal authority, because under the Municipal Authority Act. So each municipality would be a member and authorize a member of their council then to be on it, and be run by the municipalities. They'd have their own governing board, able to create their own or entity and own taxing power and all that kind of stuff.
How many are involved?
Right now, but it'll be the big 6.
Oh, just the big 6?
Right now, it'll be the big 6 we can start off
You
with.
said it's gonna be a lot of people.
Big 6. We'll start off with the West Reading, Spring, Wyomissing, Sinking Spring, Wernersville, South and Lower. Get the core people involved first, and then tack for the smaller ones.
What's your funding mechanism?
That would be it'd be the same thing as a municipal authority.
One year.
We're in the design phase, that would be the design phase for those 6 to come up with design and application.
When your responses, I'm just, just guesstimate, when you guys are all tied up, and the city comes out, how many times do you think, less than 100 a year?
Less than 100 a year. I'd say we used to be about 35 a month. When we expanded, we went to about 60 a month calls that we were getting covered by.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's system-wide.
It's system
That
wide.
would be their
Oh,
whole
That'd
entire
be
area.
system wide. We're usually about 30 up this way. The benefit is the trucks are in our coverage area when they get to the hospital, and they can double out so they drop the patient off, they go available, recall the cover company.
And us, and that's
And-
why you see the difference of patient contact and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we do that quite a lot, but again, it's,
Yeah, I was just curious. How are you doing with, just a little side subject, down in,
we'll be out of there by the 15th of the month.
oh, really, you're definitely.
Hopefully before February, we'll be out of there. 15th of March is the last day, it's an official day.
Are you hearing any more from the governor's office as to, you think with the new regime, maybe,
We know we have a new state medical director
And fire.
and a new fire commissioner, but because we're still waiting on 2% loans from the office of fire commissioner. But again, it's across the board, the EMS is, fire's next. I mean, you've already experienced it with the volunteerism down, you know, and already they, but it's been coming across the board. Last year, the last session, they tried to create the county authority act for EMS and fire. And they had some shot downs from that to have the counties do it, but we still have the ethics of municipalities doing it. Yes, ma'am?
What was the opposition?
Fire, they wanted to have some more control of it.
It needs to be on a county basis.
I didn't even know that they had explored a county.
Yeah, they were putting it on for the actual legislation that allowed the counties to do it.
Boy, that was kept quiet.
And some of the fire entities that were on the committee didn't like I don't know, the loss of control, we'll say, held up some of it.
I was gonna call Mark Rossi and say, Mark, let's go have lunch and talk to them about it. We need to do this.
And that's where it should be. It should be fire and EMS, not police so much, because again, they should have started with EMS and fire way back when we had that report through the Center for Excellence in Government. Because we're the smallest of the entities. You could have started with us, worked your way up to fire, and then tackled police as it would have been, because you would have had a lot of experience by then. But there's a lot of individual issues that rock with the police world, and there's not too much left. But the volunteerism is, it's not like when we were there, when you started, it's not there anymore. And it's in the municipalities that still have all volunteer fire departments are soon in for what you experienced how many years ago.
I've spoken to the county commissioners about that. They didn't seem to be really enthusiastic about it.
Oh, no, they need cover. They need cover for it. When I spoke to the county commissioners about it, it's like, well, if you can give us cover, that it's a requirement, we'll gladly support it, but if we have, well, the municipalities are on the hook now through the law.
Gotta remember, in some of these small fire company towns, you know, it's the guy who buys the most beers at the bar gets to be the fire chief, and it's a popularity contest. And the commissioners want nothing to do to change that.
Especially, again, you look at it, when I talked to the three of them, and the one who just left us, Kevin Barnhart, it's like, they were all looking for cover. If there's cover, then they're good. That they're not gonna be the ones that, there's a law of legislation, but right now the legislation is it's on the boroughs and the municipalities townships to provide for it, not the county. If they change the legislation that it's on the county, oh, well, then the legislation says it's on us, oh, okay, we're good.
Anybody else have anything for Tony?
Back to that municipal authority business. What do you have in mind timeline-wise?
Year two. We've got to design it, and design it with all the municipalities involved. Make sure that we're all crossing the I's and T's. Chip Dilger's very involved with it, wants to be involved with it, and he's got a lot of municipal experience. Dan Beckers wants to be involved with it, and, you know, so we've got the attorney, we wanna get Spring, we wanna get everyone else in police one member so that we can keep the communication going back and forth. But it's not something that's gonna turn around tomorrow.
Hopefully a year or two isn't too late.
I'm hoping a year, you can start to pull together a year and a half.
Well, bear in mind that there's gonna be money coming out of municipalities, budget seasons like October. Keep that out there. You know.
Absolutely, as we come every year, that we'd like to be funded, you know, you guys upped it this year, 50, that was great. But, you know, it's gotta be more. across the board. We've got to get, once you get the big ones all settled how it is, then you can go to the little ones and say, all right, you've got other choices, here's what it is, and now you can get everyone to pay everyone has to pay for it. Where it's not just these ones paying. Because that's what we ran down in Union Township. Birdsboro was willing to pay the $125. Union wanted it for free. And I couldn't, there's no way possible that I could see charging one municipality that much money while the other one got it for next to nothing. It's not right. And they're gonna keep, they're the same ones that have PSP coverage, and again, you've got public service and you're required to provide for it. So they're gonna get it for whoever they can get it to for the least amount of money.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. Moving on to the police department, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have submitted my annual review for 2022. Hoping everybody got to take a look at it. I'm kind of lengthy, so I don't want to go over the whole thing here, but I'll go over the executive summary that I have here in the beginning. We handled 7,645 calls in 2022, which is an increase of 413 over 2021. We arrested a total of 479 people, which again was an increase over 2021. That was for 124 additional people. We had a clearance rate at the end of 68%, which puts us well above the national average. 3 times throughout the year, we administered Narcan to an individual that was overdosing. Everybody survived that we were able to deliver those dosage to. There was a combination of 3,073 traffic citations, parking tickets, and warnings issued. We handled a total of 715 crashes, 397 were not reportable, 205 were reportable. Something that I did differently in this one, in the past 2 years, I did not include hit and run crashes. I did that in this one, that's why you see that increase in 715. I delineated out and as to how many reportable and non-reportable we had as well. Patrolled a little over 110,000 miles throughout the whole year and utilized a little over 12,000 gallons of gas and just under 150,000 in fines and requests for reports, alarm billing and such were taken in by the police department. So if anybody has any questions on the actual report, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, I'll be glad to answer it now, or if you, between now and council, if you come up with any questions.
We haven't got it yet. That's, I assume will be in the council pack.
This report?
Yeah.
It would be a supplement to the minutes of
Right,
this meeting.
I got an email from the new owner at 801 Holland Square. There's a handicap sign in front of that house, and they are not in need of that handicap sign, and they are requesting that it be removed. So I am asking that. And I don't, I guess, do we have to get that permission, or is this something I can ask just John or Jim Babb to just have it removed, or?
Because this committee is involved in the approval, I think it makes it better paper trail if the committee also is part of the process to remove them.
Parking is really tight down there. But we're certain that there's nobody else that uses it other than that house.
I have not, there's nobody in it now because it's marked the handicap space and there's nobody else utilizing it. The person that was is no longer there.
Or as long as it's
Right.
not being used by the person who was there. Okay.
Because I know, didn't, once a year, or at least Chief Beal said he would review that whole list and
I just
make a
did-
list to.
Right,
Jim Babb.
I've done that, and I now have a list of all of this was on the list, I just, the person is no longer there that utilized that space, so they would like the space to be able to utilize it in front of their house, the new owners, so.
Well, if there's somebody on the block who needs it, they can make a
yeah, they can make their request. at that point.
I'll add one here, my 105-year-old neighbor passed away a couple of weeks ago. I had one there, 1536 Dalton.
Do you know who's there now?
No one yet, but I'm sure there will be sometime in the near future, but she was the one that, I guess, Kramer's, Mrs. Kramer. 105.
We wanna add that one to the list?
I mean, I'm just,
Well,
one.
what if somebody moves in?
Well, I don't know, I just wanted to add and just let you know.
I guess we can at 3:05.
No, I haven't, no. She used it, she didn't use it, her family used it.
Just as part of a regular process, I think it would be a good idea to reach out to the owner or who's responsible for the property now before we take action. I mean, that would be my suggestion, to just have a procedure where we do
Do
that.
you know who's responsible for the house now?
It's probably Mike, the son, but he lives in Texas, so
If you could get me his info,
I'll get
contact.
Yeah, I know. I'll get his address.
John will fly down there and talk to him.
Yeah.
I'll get his address.
Okay, well, let's take some action then on 801 Holland Square. Somebody wish to make that motion to move the sign?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have received a request for a permit from the Family Guidance Center for their annual Mind Your Health 5K. It is scheduled for May 20th of 2023. I am in receipt of all of their paperwork for the request. So I would ask that this be moved on to council for final approval.
Anybody wish to make that
They've
motion?
had that
So
there
moved.
before.
They're regular.
Motion, second? I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Next, I came to the committee in November asking if you would mind selling a police car to the school district directly without going through the bidding process. At that time, I was told that that would be okay. I have discussed with the school about the purchase, and I told them that this number would have to be agreed upon, but $11,000. I came to that number because our last car was just sold on Municipal for $9,500. This vehicle would maintain the emergency lights for them, so for that extra $1,500 for those lightings, that lighting package would be the $11,000. So I would ask that that we can agree to that price, and then I guess it would have to go to the council for final approval.
What are they gonna do with the lights and sirens?
Their officer is, he's an officer. He is sworn through the state. He has arrest powers. So I'm gonna take blind missing police off of it, but leave the stripes, and then they're gonna put the school, and it's, the purpose, they want it so that that officer can get from one school to the other, and then it'd be parked in front of the buildings, and it's a marked vehicle to kind of try to have just kind of the suppression of anybody coming in and thinking about doing something, so they know that there's an officer on location.
But he's legally allowed to run lights and sirens?
Yeah. So, they have an ORI with the state and everything, so.
I just hear the beepers out of the kids.
So I think it's more that they just like to have that marked vehicle in front of the schools, just to try to dissuade people from doing maybe something that is done in our society today, unfortunately.
Somebody wish to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
That goes to council,
That-
right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I told
Yeah.
them. And then I would ask that the agenda be amended, thank you, I have another issue that I need to discuss regarding the Wilson School District and entering into an intergovernmental agreement with them.
I'll make that.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? Is there any public comment?
We don't know what the subject is, so how can we?
Subjects, Wilson School District.
Great.
I don't know what it is either.
That solves it.
Stay here.
That's great.
You're gonna find out in a minute.
So-
That's fantastic.
We're just following the law.
Yes.
Good.
Back in November, the Wilson School District approached all of the police departments that cover their school district. What they are asking to do is that each municipality enter into this agreement with them to cover a section in the vehicle code, which is 3345.1. It's titled Enforcement of Failure to Stop for School Bus with Flashing Red Lights. So what this is, what we've always dealt with to cover if somebody goes past the school bus when they're loading and unloading kids is section 3345, meeting or overtaking school bus, duty of approaching driver when red signals are flashing. So there's a difference between the two laws. The original law is still in effect. The second law is actually a civil process that is carried out to enforce this. It gets rid of the license suspension, it gets rid of points. The fine is about the same, but it distributes the fines differently. As I'm told, the reason why they put this into effect, because a lot of what happens, if somebody gets charged with the original, it gets pled down to usually traffic control devices, which is 3111A, that has no points, it's a $150 fine and some associated costs, and there's no license suspension. So what this does is it makes it a per se offense, meaning that it's kind of like the traffic light cameras that you see in cities of the first class, where if you run the light, the owner of the vehicle gets sent a ticket for the violation. But it's a civil deal, it's captured by cameras that are on the bus, and those cameras are monitored by a third party, the third party that puts the cameras on the bus. So it's been around for just a little while now, and the state police have entered into this agreement now for a little bit. Locally, Kutztown Borough is in an agreement with the Kutztown School District. So, it all sounds great, okay? But, there's a but, there's a big but. As I said, this is a civil process. And I've discussed this with the solicitor, my concerns. And it's apparently what has been happening a little bit, and I just found this out this past week, a little bit more. What happens is, when a violation occurs, it's captured on the video, it goes to the company. That company then sends us, the police department, a link to the video so that we can see the violation and we can actually state that yes, a violation did occur, and we sign off on it saying, yes, this is valid and it's a violation. The company then sends the owner of the vehicle, it's not a citation, it's a civil process of a fine, that this is what your fine is. The owner of that vehicle then, what they need to do is, it's actually not pleading guilty to a citation, it's a countersuit against, ends up being us because we're the one authorizing this citation. And we then have to go to district court, and then we would have to try it as we would normally, giving our evidence. Issues in the way this law is written is there's actually written into the law a defense that you can say, I wasn't driving the car, somebody else had my car. And it's also written into the offense, they don't need to provide who's driving, okay? So the video, the cameras are set up so that it captures the tags of the vehicles as they go by. You're not seeing very much of the interior of the vehicle so that you could get at least a description of who that driver is. Under the old law that is still current, if we would get a violation, they must submit a report to us, and on there, they have to provide us a description of the driver, so that we can use that, look at a driver's license, look at them, and when we go to talk to them, and say, yep, it matches, gives us more evidence to then cite them under that old violation. Well, there's none of that here.
You have to ID and report for criminal.
Well, that's part of it is, when we would say that we ran the tag, this is the owner, this was the description of the owner, and this is the description provided to us by the witness or the bus driver or whomever, that it relatively matches that description. So, but there's none of that written into this law, and all they have to do is say, I wasn't driving, I'm not telling you. So now it's our burden of proof, you know, that's pretty much out the window, because all they have to do is say, no, it wasn't me. And there's no way for us to say it was them. So what happens then, and it's apparently happened now a few times, where because this is a civil suit and it's a countersuit against us, when they are found not guilty of the offense, the municipality's becoming responsible for all the fees. And it's like $450. As I've just found this out late last week, that the state police is pulling out of their MOU. Kutztown is now looking at doing it as well. The language of how they wrote this law and how it's handled has to be cleaned up, in my opinion. You know, I don't think that it's right that we're handling this, but then if they're found not guilty, then we're responsible, because they're actually countersuing us. They're not pleading not guilty, it's a countersuit, and we become responsible for up to $450 to them.
That's for cost, not attorneys.
It's a lawsuit, so they could add more. So there's like the filing fees, and there's like,
Tell them what happens even if you win the case with the funds.
well, if we win, the vast majority of it goes to the school district.
We get like a token.
Yeah, we get, I forget what the amount is now. I think it's
And
something
there's
like,
where it all lies.
I think it's like $25 to $50 we get. The company that runs the cameras gets that same amount. So we're not, we're not in to gain anything. We're out there to make sure that the roadways are safe. But there's a lot more risk to us than, let's say, reward to us.
So we didn't opt into this thing.
No, this would have to get signed by the borough. And I am not comfortable, I just, like, I was discussing. I had a meeting with the school district and all the other chiefs that are within the Wilson School District. This was back in November, but we didn't have a fire and police in December, so I couldn't talk about it then. I know that the chief of Spring and I believe Lower Heidelberg now, they're going to be doing, as I, recommending that we do not agree to this with Wilson as it is right now.
Sounds like a good recommendation.
Just because.
I'll make a motion, we go with the chief's recommendation
I'll
and
second.
turn down this request.
Second.
Off the record? Oh, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Off the record. Now, if they want to talk to us about LERTA, we'll be more than happy to sit down and talk to them.
I'd just like for them, their bus drivers to pull over for our little red lights and sirens. Oh, I'm sorry, I believe that's a law too, correct? Failing to yield to an emergency vehicle?
I think the penalty criminally is very, very strong, it's very severe, and I really think there should be another way to do this.
Well, I think the cameras are a great idea. The videos that they showed us and what they capture, and it captures the violations very clearly. And it would be great evidence. But I think that, I don't know why they can't combine the original violation of a section in the vehicle code with adding these cameras and coming up with something a little different here than making this a civil process. I get what they're trying to do because they're trying to make it so that, there isn't anything on their driving record for this. Like I said, there's no suspension, there's no points, but there's not even a violation that's listed on their driving record for this, because it's a civil process.
They're hoping you'll pay the ticket and go away.
Yes, that's what they're hoping, and
Well,
it
let me-
sounds as
let me
though
comment.
a large portion of people are just doing that, because they like the fact that there's no points. The person that is the owner of the car gets the same link that we would get, so that they can see the violation. And most of them are probably saying, oh, yeah, you know, but some of them are learning, well, let's just fight this, and they're winning, and other stuff.
So what happens with the traffic light camera when somebody says that I wasn't driving? Well, what's the difference?
Those are in cities of the first class, so that's not something that we have to worry about.
They have those things for PennDOT on the turnpike,
Yeah,
speed limit ones.
Yeah.
And a lot of them out of state, you just get a ticket.
it's the same with the Easy Pass too now, they're sending it to the vehicle owners and, everything, so.
But that's a ticket where you can plead not guilty
Yes.
and request a hearing, it's not a lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah, but they go to another state, it's more pay $40 or something.
Answer me that, because I've heard both. Take the boulevards, okay, where you got a median strip in the middle. Do you have to stop?
So, on the boulevards with the islands, if it's in an area, like say mid-block, and the islands are there, no, you do not have to stop. If you're at an intersection with, say, Lake Avenue, at the stop sign, and that's, because I know there's one there,
Where they could run across the street?
but that you would have to stop, because it's in the intersection.
Just always wondered that, I've heard both sides, I always stop, Okay.
I will let the school know today that we are.
I was gonna say-
Or do you want, okay, you just want to wait? Okay.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. I will let the school know that I have recommended that we do not, that fire and police are
Sure, we'll
going to
get
make
approved,
that
but-
recommendation to council, so it is looking as though we are not.
It's gonna get approved, but probably, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's-
And that's always gonna help.
Council.
Right.
It's gonna help me recommend.
Yeah.
But so it's a recommendation to council. I listen to those things, I recommend it. That's it.
Sure.
Chief, from time to time we see really awful conduct by police in Minneapolis. Does that cause the county chiefs to talk amongst themselves about what they can do, vis-a-vis training or general orders or anything like that?
Well, each individual police department has their own policies on how they handle things. I was talking with the mayor prior, he was asking me prior to the meeting about it. And before I came over here, I was actually reading an article from a training company called Caliber Press, and they give their opinions on how a lot of this and why it happened. I believe it has a big thing to do with training. When we get under stress, a lot of things go out the window, and our limbic system of our brain takes over, and we kind of get into that fight or flight mentality. And I think a lot of what happens is these guys were in that fight mentality. They didn't stop, slow down, and think. And what happens then a lot of times too, and you see it in all types of different events, but you get a mob mentality where one person starts doing something, then everybody else starts doing the same thing. And it sounds to me like a lot of that was going on here. And I don't know what their training's like. When you watch the video, there were people fighting each other with him. One guy's pulling one way, one guy's pulling another. I will say that all these types of things that you saw happening, I can say we are not training that way. Since I've taken over now, this will be the third year that we are going to be doing that, the defensive tactics stuff this summer. Since we've been doing it, we're being trained on actually how to work with each other to take people into custody like that. So I'd like to feel better that at least our guys and gals would hopefully have something in the back of their mind, like we gotta do this differently. Even, you go back to just the Stanley incident at Walmart. That was before we were doing this training. And they were fighting each other, trying to get him into custody. One would pull one way, one would pull the other, and that just goes against. We weren't, not one person struck him, kicked him, did all that kind of stuff. But it just goes to show you how you have to learn to work together in taking a person into custody, because when it comes down to it, we are dealing with a person that does not want to comply. And I can't get into anybody's mind and make them comply. Nobody can. They're gonna make that decision for themselves. And when we have to get them into custody and force them, sometimes we have to use force. It's an ugly business. But we have to learn how to do it, and we're doing it with each other. And that's one of the areas in law enforcement that I think is sadly in need of improvement, is the training. And I've said to you all in the past that I'm very big on training, and that's what I'm trying to do. We're doing a lot more training now than we ever have, and it's because of reasons like this. I put something out to the department about the whole incident on Friday before the video came out, and just reminding them to be thinking and working together and that type of stuff. And I can only hope that, one, this kind of thing never happens around here, and two, that if we are getting into an incident, that our guys and gals are doing as they're trained, and each incident, we're gonna look at and make sure that they are. And I look at it right now, a lot of this stuff is a failure of training, and if something happens and we gotta improve, that's what we're gonna look at, is how do we need to improve our training even more than we've been doing so far. So, hope that answers your question.
I know the one thing that really shocked me, and is that they actually had, quote, a task force named Scorpion.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what, you just created your own, group of thugs? I mean, that was absurd, I thought.
Like I said, there's a lot there that needs to be looked at, and, there's, I am not against any officer having to use force that needs to use force in the appropriate level of force. And that's another thing I said to them in my email to them, it's just that I'm not gonna condone the overuse of force, and it's my job to make sure that they are getting trained properly to do it. And that's what I've been doing, and I'm gonna continue to do, and, these are the reasons why it needs to happen.
Well, and your training is paying off, because we've heard numerous times that, the professionalism that is displayed by our officers to the public, and that continues.
So we have a great bunch of people, so that makes it easier too.
Anybody else have anything to
Stress,
chief?
and the stress that people under really does have an enormous effect. I knew better, but felt I had to do X and Y or whatever. His chiefs and my conversation started out with, they knew who the guy was. Couldn't they have just mailed him a citation in the mail? But the stress kicks in, overrides that. I also worry about, we've seen our numbers, our recruiting decline significantly. And we're considered a good place to go work for, so I'm sure there's other departments that are not taking necessarily the top candidates.
Okay, is that it? Alrighty. Thank you, chief. We'll move on to West Side Emergency Management.
Okay, some quick notes here. Hazmat mitigation plan, the steering committee is all finished, and we should hopefully be getting a copy of whatever they're coming up with for a final here in the next month or so. The class for the emergency management for elected officials was last week, and we had Steve Brunner and Keith and Michelle attended either live or virtual, which was a good thing. There were 32 altogether, of which 7 came from West Side. 3 from us and 2 from Spring, 1 from West Reading, and 1 from Sinking Spring. So that was a good thing, so we made up about 25% of the people attending. And that's good. The audit for our agency was completed, for 21 was completed and approved by the agency. So that passed muster. Bill, will remain as our rep, and Michelle is our alternate if we need him. And, currently working on completing the, emergency operation plan for, 2023, updating. Most of the things that get updated there are people's names and numbers. You know, I finish it one day, and the next day, 2 people have already changed. You know, it's unbelievable how that happens, and that makes it very difficult. So they're in our phones, but may not be written down all the time because it changes so quickly. We used the code red system when the phone system went out of order here at the beginning of the month, and it seemed to help. We also have I know you guys have a Facebook page too, but there's one that we use for emergency management too. I don't think it's the same one. And I guess, was it on the website then too? So I don't know how many more calls you got then, but hopefully that squashed some of that anxiety of not being able to get through here.
One of the things that's interesting about that, Tom, is people who currently evolved, I'm just catching up with it now myself, but some people have evolved past email. The school district, when they have a snowflake, no longer puts a notice of that on their website. Part of it. But they apparently do it from some phone system. They notify the parents of their kid, but it's no longer on the website. I mean, it's hard.
I get Wilson's, I don't have one missing, so I don't know exactly what they do.
You get a phone call.
Yeah, you get a phone call, it's basically like the code red, you get a phone call and
Right,
text.
I get that from Wilson, I guess I should go and get their, on their list, I don't know, maybe I can do that through the SRO guy. Or get me on the list or something. It's good to know, just from the standpoint of just knowing, it's a good thing to have, so that people ask. So that's all I have, unless anyone has a question.
Any questions for Tom? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hey, is there any old business to be discussed? Any new business anyone wants to bring forward? Do we have an executive session?
I don't believe we need it. I just left that on to be safe.
Okay, great. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? We are adjourned.